with Minister Dunne to find out exactly that. But I think it's important to say what the idea is behind this. It's all about getting businesses open. It's all about helping them to stay open and helping them to keep on and take back their employees. So we saw last week the number of people on the pandemic unemployment payment fall by 67,000. It's down about 42% since the peak, and that's encouraging. But we need that to be sustained now for the next few weeks and months. And that means backing business and backing employers. And that means a mix of actions. It means things like grants to help them reopen. It means waiving commercial rates, which we've done, the wage subsidy scheme, helping to meet some of the costs like payroll, and also giving businesses access to loans on much better terms and conditions than they have now. And this legislation agreed by Cabinet yesterday will help us do that. That needs to be followed up by actions and a response from the banks. And I'm meeting all of the major banks this week to talk to them exactly about that.
The thing is, though, if you can't trust them on mortgages, can you trust them on this?
Well, I think the best approach to all of these things is trust and verify. So trust, but also then double check to see whether what's been promised has been delivered on. And certainly in previous discussions, or at least discussions involving officials, what banks have said is that if we gave a better guarantee, an 80-20 guarantee with no portfolio cap. And crucially, without getting too technical about it, crucially that's what this legislation does. It removes the portfolio cap. That would allow the banks to do what we want them to do, which is to offer loans for a 5 or 6 year period rather than 3 years, to offer lower interest rates than they currently offer, and also to offer a payment-free period at the start, maybe 6 months to a year where you don't have to make any repayments. And that's the kind of finance businesses need.
You want them to do this. How can you make sure that they do?
Well, that's exactly what this is going to be about. Do I have any, legal power to force them to lend? Not really. There is a thing called a credit review office, and if a business is refused loans, they can already go to the credit review office. About half of the appeals are actually upheld in favour of businesses, so that already exists. But rather than using those kind of sanctions, which do exist in law, what we're trying to put in place is a guarantee that will incentivise the banks to lend to business. And, the government is willing to take 80% of the risk here, which is very substantial. And we're saying to the banks...
Not as much, though, as in some other countries. In the UK, the government is taking 100% of the risk. And small businesses here have said that Ireland's trailing behind the UK in this regard.
Well, there's always two aspects to that. There's the percentage risk and the portfolio cap. So we're saying 80-20 with no portfolio cap. I considered going to 100%, as did government colleagues. We think that would be a mistake.
Why so?
Because if we did that, then the banks would take no risk whatsoever. And if somebody has no skin in the game, takes no risk whatsoever, the taxpayer is 100% liable for any business that doesn't pay back its loans, then there's no disincentive to avoid reckless lending or lending to companies that sadly may not be able to pay the money back.
But in the UK, didn't they go to 100% because they found that anything less than that just didn't work?
Well, they did, but whether that's the right decision or not remains to be seen. You could find in a few years' time the British taxpayer being on the hit for that, and that would mean higher taxes for workers, for ordinary people, for businesses too. Now, we do have credit guarantee schemes in place already, and hundreds of millions have already been drawn down from those schemes. So we do know they work. About 100 million from the one that was set up back in 2012 and about 150 million from the COVID one set up more recently. But we want lending of about 2 billion to be out there in the economy. And we believe that this approach will provide much more attractive loans to businesses. And it's not just new loans. It's also, in some cases, businesses refinancing debt that they're rolling over. So they'll be able to refinance it at lower rates. And it's open to any business with up to 500 employees and any business that's lost about 15% of its profit or turnover.
And when will it start then? When do you want to see those loans happening?
We'd expect it to be started in the autumn. The bill was only being published today. We'll have it through the Houses before the end of July. And we'd expect then, September, October to have it up and running.
You've mentioned the pandemic unemployment payment. This morning's Irish Examiner says that there's going to be a phased reduction of this payment and that by Christmas it will be at the same level as the regular unemployment payment, which would be a huge cut. Is that the case?
Well, no decision on that has been made, so that's not the case, at least not as of today. Actually, the position as of today is the pandemic unemployment payment ends on the 10th of August.
But you've already signalled that it will be extended.
Yeah, it will need to be extended, and it was never intended that it would just stop overnight, that it would have to be phased out. And I think everyone understands that's necessary.
So it will be phased out. I mean, it is likely to be cut then in August. Is that the case?
There have already been changes, for example, and the idea.
But those were changes, weren't they, for part-time workers rather than for people who had been working full-time before the pandemic?
That's right. You know, the truth is the pandemic unemployment payment is paid at a rate that is, 3 times higher than in Northern Ireland and our nearest neighbour like Britain, and you gave comparisons of Britain there a moment ago, and I think everyone appreciates that it wouldn't be affordable to keep it in place forever, and also wouldn't be fair that some people who lost their jobs, for example, in January or February of this year are getting paid 200 or 203 euros a week, whereas some people who lost their jobs since are on 350.
So there will be a phased reduction.
But it's not even as straightforward as that. There actually are some people, particularly people with dependents, who would be better off on the regular social welfare payments because they have dependents, and you don't get extra money for that in the pandemic unemployment payment. So the idea is to regularise the situation over a period of time and bring the pandemic unemployment payment back in line with regular job seekers. But the most important thing is to get people back to work, and 42% of people who were on the pandemic unemployment payment are already back to work. I'd like to get that much higher. 100% would be ideal, but certainly much higher. And the way we sustain that, the way we get people earning the money that they'd like to be earning or want to be earning again, is to get people back to work, not by keeping them on different forms of welfare payments.
There have been conflicting reports as to whether there's going to be a VAT cut for the hospitality industry in this stimulus package. Will there be?
It's one of the things under examination. There are different things you can do with VAT. You can raise the threshold, which would be particularly helpful for small business. You can do rebates, or you can reduce the rate. And again, all of those measures are in the mix.
So you haven't made the decision yet?
No, we won't until next Monday, and we'll make the package publicly known next week. But it'll be a mix of things. It'll be a mix of extending the wage subsidy scheme, which is the main thing the business is saying to me that they need, including in the hospitality sector. An enhanced restart grant, and again, hotels, restaurants in particular need that to get up and running again. We are looking at business taxes like commercial rates, for example, and VAT. So it'll be a package that, when you see it in the round, will be of scale, and it will be possible to deploy and implement quickly, which is really important.
Can we talk about Barry Cowan? Eamon Ryan said yesterday on Drive Time, "I think further questions are being asked, and I would imagine they will have to be answered." Is he right?
I think he is. We know that Minister Cowan committed a road traffic offence 4 years ago. He's apologised for that. He paid the price for it, which was a 3-month driving ban, and he's since regularised his affairs and has a full clean licence. So he's been punished for that mistake, and I don't believe anyone should be punished twice for that mistake. But a different issue has arisen now since then, which is this Garda report that he may have tried to avoid a Garda checkpoint. And he says that's untrue. He's made a complaint to the Gardaí about that, to have that record corrected. And I understand that the Gardaí are carrying out an investigation into that. And at least until that investigation is done, there probably isn't any more to say about it. But we will have to see what the outcome of that investigation is.
So the opposition, though, want him to answer further questions now because they feel they didn't get a chance to question him last week. And then we had this story emerging over the weekend.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, and I'm sure Mr. Cowan will answer any questions that are pertinent. But more important is that he has made a complaint to the Gardaí about this Garda report. I understand the Commissioner has appointed somebody to investigate that, and really we need to hear the outcome of that investigation before any more steps.
Were you annoyed, though, to see this emerging over the weekend when you thought the matter was done and dusted?
I did. I did obviously seek an assurance from the Taoiseach, from the leader of Fianna Fáil, that there wouldn't be any more revelations or any more stories other than what we'd heard already. This has since emerged, but it is denied by the Minister of Agriculture, and he has made a complaint to the Gardaí. And
we haven't heard, though, from the Gardaí involved.
And I think we will hear from An Garda Síochána in due course, and I'm willing to wait for the outcome of that investigation.
Leo Varadkar, thank you for joining us this
morning.
It's 8:32. We'll have news in just a moment.